You're listening to the Ball Talk podcast with me, Ryan Bailey. This podcast is brought to you by Adapt Athletic Performance and Therapy. Head over to Instagram and give them a follow at adapt_clinic. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to leave a like, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe or follow button as well. Without further ado, let's get straight into the podcast.
So this is episode number 66 of the Ball Talk podcast, as always brought to you by Adapt Athletic Performance and Therapy. We're back on Zoom after vowing that I wouldn't go back on Zoom. We're back on it again, and I'm here with an old college mate of mine, Matt Hayes. Matt, the floor is yours for a minute. Let people know who you are.
Yeah, like I said, my name's Matt. I was in UL for a couple of years, but at the moment I'm working in Stats Perform. I'm a senior analyst there for them, doing the data collection for a lot of different leagues around Europe and around the world. But I have a YouTube channel as well called Matt Hayes Tottenham Blog that I've been running for a couple of years, and it's just it started out as a nice little hobby on the side, but it's become one of my main projects, and I've been lucky enough to grow a following of nearly 12,000 subscribers on there. And I'm just looking forward really to talking about the journey and stuff.
Good stuff. And I want to get into the journey, as you said, but just talk to me about stats first of all before we go into the Tottenham blog side of things. You working in stats, so you're basically being paid to watch the games, but watch them in more detail as well.
Yeah, pretty much. It's living the dream, being paid to watch football. It's look, obviously there's a bit more to it than that, and all like the kind of admin and normal office side of stuff, but I go into work 4 or 5 days a week, and I sit down and I watch. Sometimes it is the English League 1 and League 2, which would be kind of our main leagues, but you get to branch out into kind of spread your knowledge in a whole lot of different leagues, like the Korean leagues. We do Thailand, we do Norway, Belgium, all these kind of obscure leagues that you wouldn't really hear too much about. I'm lucky enough to get to watch those, and I think the best thing about the leagues like that is you get to see these really strange moments that happen in these kind of lower quality leagues. Like you have these often you see players in the Korean league, they get one of those little golf carts come off, stretch them off the pitch, and they get up and run back onto it. Or you see these like random goals from the halfway line in Qatar the whole time. It is you get to see the really good and the really bizarre side of football, and it's like I said, it's the dream job.
Yeah, and so do stats supply the stats for like Google, say, or where would it mainly be for?
Or the team, like we have certain clubs that will be clients, and that the data we collect will be going straight to them, or we have different kind of broadcasters around the world, and I think a lot of the time companies just kind of buy certain packages, I suppose, and use them in particular analyses of whatever, but you'll see the stats everywhere, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, so Tottenham blog, you set up the Tottenham blog. How you said just over 2 years ago, was it?
Yeah, it was May 2019 when I set that up. So it was actually the week before we played Liverpool in the Champions League final, which is, in hindsight, it wasn't a very good time to set it up. And it was kind of the buzz and the love around the club at that time. And my dad, unfortunately, is a Liverpool fan. So when I was trying to talk to him about the final, there's quite a few conflicts of ideas and opinions. So with that many Spurs fans around the place in Ireland, I decided just to sit in front of my camera and say what I thought needed to be said, and thankfully, and for some reason, people on the other side decided to watch it and decided to comment and start that interaction. And I haven't really looked back since. I have taken breaks from the channel every now and then, but when I do it, it's just the best thing ever, because it builds this community that, like I said, I don't really have outside of the channel, because in Limerick especially, but in Ireland you have everyone's a United fan or a Liverpool fan, and you might get the odd Arsenal or Chelsea fan. So kind of to have that connection from my own bedroom, speaking to so many different Spurs fans, is something I never really thought I'd have, to be honest.
Because it's like fan accounts are something that have come very common. Well, not very common, but they're more popular than they were, say, 5 years ago. Like you look at it was a Full-Time Devils was the United one, Arsenal Fan TV, all these different channels. But Tottenham was one that I had never actually heard of a fan account. There obviously are some, but until yours started up, I didn't really know them. So talk to me about the different fan accounts, like in Ireland, say, straight off, that are Tottenham fan accounts. Is there a good few of them, or?
There's, off the top of my head, there's only one other that I can really think of, and it's actually a good friend of mine, the Irish Hotspur, the channel is David Harris is his name. And it actually kind of came, he was coming on as a guest on my channel and kind of broke off into his own channel there. But off the top of my head, I can't think of any other Irish Spurs fans. But I suppose talk about Tottenham fan channels in general. The main one is We Are Tottenham TV, who are brothers over in London who've been running their channel, I think maybe for 4 or 5 years now. And I think the entire Tottenham YouTube community really owe what has kind of come for us personally to those lads, because they used to always have fan shows where just anyone could call in to have their say about Spurs. And I think a lot of people kind of found the love for basically talking to the camera about Tottenham and there. And there's probably 15, 20, 25 different Spurs fan channels up there now that are kind of spawned off of that one. And I've been lucky enough to actually go over to Ben and Sim in London. They brought me over for the Carabao Cup final to run a watch along from just around the corner from Wembley Stadium, which I think got over 400,000 views, which I mean is kind of crazy when you think about it. But in Ireland, there's not too many of us, but you don't have to look too far to find a couple of dozen others.
Yeah. And so you started, and you have been working over, say, like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever it may be. Given the timing of, and I don't like to talk too much about COVID, especially on podcasts, we hear about it enough, but given the timing of it and how Zoom, Microsoft Teams, these sort of companies started to build and people started to use them more, it was handy, let's say, for the lads, as you said, over in London, to connect with them and connect with other people around the world, and you get to know so many more people and talk to them, whether it be on a podcast or on a YouTube channel, like you said.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. I think you can talk about the negative sides of social media as much as you want, and the conversation is there to be had. I think it needs to be had, but there's a lot of positives that come from that as well. And there's people that I would genuinely call friends that they may live in London, or they may live in Canada or the USA or Australia, whatever it is. And it's just so easy to connect nowadays. And thankfully, like you said, we do have these Zoom, Microsoft Teams. It's StreamYard that I use, which I think is the most popular one probably in the YouTube sphere. But it's kind of mad when you think about it, how easy it is to really grow those connections and relationships with people all around the world. But it's a privilege to be able to share that with them.
Absolutely, yeah. So talk to me about, you touched on there's the negative side to YouTube and social media and everything. You think a fan account that it'd just be, let's say, if there are negative comments, say on a video of yours, something, that it'd be, nearly kind of, it'd be, you call it banter probably between fans, or difference of opinions, or is it that sort of stuff if there are to be comments, or like, do you find that no matter what it is you're putting up online that there will be some negative comments?
Yeah, I think it is, unfortunately, an inevitability with putting stuff up online, and it doesn't happen at first. It's kind of when you start to get a kind of a bit of attention, there'll always be one or two people. It's like, oh, well, I don't like that. And if I say something about Spurs, if I put out this outrageous opinion, which I quite often do, I expect to get a bit of backlash, and I expect people to say, well, I don't agree with you and this is why. But there just seems to be some people out there that have to make everything personal, and if they disagree with an opinion and they bring it as far as they want, and it goes everywhere. We even saw, if you want to look what happened in England at the Euros, the way a few players missed a penalty that they were obviously upset about, and it became this entire thing where racism was at the fore. And it's just going to be in every branch of life. But I feel like in social media, there's that ability to hide behind a pseudonym or a picture of your favorite players, your profile picture, and no one will ever really know that it's you. And that's just kind of something you, to some extent, have to accept if you are going to be in this sphere. But you also have to try and fight it in some way. Like if I get a negative comment, if I think it's just a stupid point of saying that someone's angry at something else for and taking it out online, I'll ignore it. But at times I kind of fight back, and it's like, what's the point? I remember seeing a tweet where I'm on Twitter as well, and I often kind of tweet out the latest Tottenham news. If say Fabrizio Romano comes out and says we're in talks with this player, I'll tweet it out and credit it to Romano. And there's a lot of accounts that do that, and a lot of accounts that really do put a lot of work into that. And they'd be putting up 50, 60, 70 tweets every day, keeping the Spurs fans up to date with that. I remember seeing a tweet one time where this guy tagged all of those accounts and was like, "Oh, I'm muting these. They're full of crap. They're only they're spouting off their own things just for followers. This, that, and the other." And he tagged all the accounts in it. And I just went back. I was like, "Why? What's the point in tagging them? Saying, oh, I'm blocking all these. I don't want them." It's like, if that's your opinion, if you don't want to listen to them, don't. But don't. There's no need to put that to someone who is a person. You don't know what that person's going through, but actually having to tell them you're useless. I don't like you. I want you off my feed. It's just that sort of pettiness, I call it, more than anything, that I sometimes bite back at, which I probably shouldn't.
Yeah, and as we said, it comes in every form of whether it be YouTube or, as you said, on Twitter as well. So just we'll go back again, and as I said before, we will be bouncing around topics. We'll go back to the start of setting up the YouTube channel. Before, as you said, the Tottenham Liverpool Champions League final. Did you think that it was going to be like a weekly thing, or did you have any plan, or was it just like here, I'll throw up this video and go for it, see how it goes, and sure, whatever happens, happens?
There was absolutely no plan whatsoever on that. It was literally just I was bored. My dad had actually always been telling me, because I kind of written for Facebook pages and some websites in the past, and I always like had that interest in journalism and that interest in talking about Tottenham mainly. And when I was writing things, I just kind of found it hard to get an opinion across in a short space of time, or briefly. You had to write so much to say what you wanted to say. In video, it could be a little bit different. And I put that first video up, and I wasn't expecting anything from it. I think it got 1,000 views in the first couple of days, and I quickly found out that wasn't going to be the case with every video. But then at the start, it just kind of, I suppose, whenever I want to upload, I'll upload, and I quickly learned, if you really do want to start building that loyal following, you need to have a bit more of a structure, more of a schedule to things, which I've tried to implement recently, but it is a lot harder than it sounds in a sport that is so constantly changing. Like I could plan to upload Monday, Thursday, Saturday, then all of a sudden we sack the manager on a Sunday or something. There's always going to be that something that will throw it out the window. But I'd be lying if I said there was any sort of a plan whatsoever when I first started.
Yeah, because I say with myself now, I try and upload every Friday if I can. Maybe it's every second Friday. Maybe it could go 2 or 3 weeks, and it could be difficult to keep it to the schedule of once a week. But whereas you could have gone with that approach of taking it once a week, but you have it now where, as you said, it could just be whatever happens. You've nearly got to be on it. As you said, if a manager is sacked, if Harry Kane comes out and he says that he wants to leave Tottenham or whatever, if he signs a new contract, you've got to be on that straight away.
Yeah, and I think that's the best and the worst part about it, because it's the best way in that the fact that I feel like I have been so on the ball, especially throughout the transfer window, which is kind of the most active and best part for my channel. I feel like there does become that, you can call it a reliance on my channel to get that news out there, but also that thing of, if someone sees something on online, or they hear something from a friend, straight away it's like, oh well, Matt will be talking about that, so let's go and see what the situation is, or something like that. And it's an honor and a privilege that for some people that like have reached out to me and said I'm their main source of info when it comes to things like that, is fantastic. But there also is, in the worst part, in two ways. There can be a sense of guilt if I'm at work and we sign a player, or if I'm out with friends and something happens and I don't really want to jump on, or I can't jump on straight away. I kind of feel as though I'm letting the viewers down. But also in the transfer window with Spurs, there's a new story every day. Like when it went back to when you're trying to appoint your new manager, there's a week or two there with Antonio Conte and Mauricio Pochettino, where every 6 hours the story was changing, and I was uploading or live streaming 2 or 3 times a day. And what I felt towards the end of the window is just I was completely burnt out and completely drained from having to do that. At times was 11, 12 videos a week, and then trying to work on top of that, and also trying to have a social life, living out with friends for the summer as well. And it was really difficult to balance, and I'm kind of feeling the effects of that at the moment, that I've taken a step back and I'm not putting as much up in the channel. But I feel maybe that's just the way it has to be in terms of getting the kind of main prioritizing my content, the main bit that people want the most, get that out there as much as possible, and then maybe take the foot off the gas in the normal season time as well.
Definitely, yeah, because that is, as you said, that burnout, it can kind of hinder you as well, because we saw over. No, I was one of them as well, setting up a podcast, or people setting up a YouTube channel, say over lockdown when COVID first hit, and there was a lot of people going kind of hammer and tongs, throwing out podcasts, say every 2-3 days, and all of a sudden you get burnt out, and you've gone a month and you've uploaded 10 or you uploaded 8 or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're nearly, not that you're running out of ideas, but you're just kind of like, I've given what I can now. I could do with a break from this. Like
it really is the way, and I think there's also a sense of in very small factions of my following as well. There's almost a sense of entitlement when it comes to content creators that, I watch you, I enjoy watching your videos. It's almost, my routine that I watch you on a Friday evening. So if there's no video there, that's your fault. And why aren't you uploading? Because I want to watch it. And again, that's a really small fraction of that. And that kind of, someone might say to you saying, oh, but I need to watch your video on a Friday, so please can you upload? They might think it's a nice thing and it's a motivating thing for you, but it's kind of a case of, well, if I do that now 1 week, I'll just have to keep it up and I'll have to keep going. And it can be really difficult to maintain that, like for the reasons I said before. And it really is so many different things that come with the positives and the negatives when you're doing something like this.
Absolutely. Let's just look at, I had it in my head there. As I said, I don't write down these questions, so if I'm jumping around different topics, and sometimes things can
come back to you,
bounce out of my head. But if we go back to your time in UL, and talk to me about, look at whether you were in UL or not. You said you had that love for journalism, so it was always a path that you were going to go down to come on to doing like a Tottenham blog, say. But do you think going to UL and doing a couple of years in the journalism course helped you to go and do that then?
Yeah, it definitely played a part, and I feel if I'd finished that course, there might have been a bit of a more different outcome. But there's so much that I learned in there that I bring into things nowadays. Even when it's just the simple case of drawing people in. You learn in the first module, your first headline, your first line of an article, you have to draw people in. It's kind of bringing that into the video side of things as well. And it's just it would be kind of hard to list everything that I've learned and everything that I feel I still implement on what I do today. But there's just so many little different snippets that you kind of take, and it could be the stuff that you don't even think you're going to use. That you might be doing a video one day and you remember what was said to you in that class one day, or you remember that suggestion a classmate made or something that you kind of bring into it. And I feel when I consciously utilize that stuff in my videos, I might get 500 extra views, or might get 20 extra subscribers off it. And I do feel I'm lucky to have that behind me. And again, I probably should have finished the course, and part of me wishes that I did, but I'm glad that I was able to take something from the time that I did spend there.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said there as well, because you'd think that you'd be going straight for, like, say, oh yeah, help me with my editing, or help me with my, whatever, be audio, visual sort of stuff. But it is just small little bits, as you said, like a headline, or you see on YouTube videos without, what's the word, without kind of clickbaiting someone, you still have to have that, the main line in what you're going to be saying,
yeah,
and draw them in. And you might not say it until 10 minutes into a 12-minute video, but it still has to be there as well.
Yeah, and I think that trying to find that balance between, like I said, it kind of is clickbaiting, but it kind of isn't clickbaiting. Because like at the end of the day, every good title has to have an element of clickbait, because otherwise no one's going to click on it. And you do have to kind of draw people in like that. And it's finding that balance between going all out, full on clickbait, and that's saying this outrageous thing that obviously isn't true, and trying to actually get the information across, but in a way that kind of entices people to click that. It's difficult to find that balance, but it's just, again, something with that journalism experience behind me, and just that practice of doing every single video and trying to find the best thing that works for whether it's my click-through rate, or when people get into the video, the audience retention. If they're jumping off straight away, I realize, okay, well, maybe the title wasn't a very good reflection of what this video was actually about. And just it's that difficult balance, but again, the more you do it, the more you can kind of perfect it, I suppose.
Yeah. So jumping back into the content itself, and I'm gonna say, what was it? It's over a year ago now. No, it's around a year ago. Is it the first time that you had Fabrizio Romano on the channel?
Yeah, I think that was probably around this time last year, actually, just after the transfer window closed.
Yeah. So is that? I know myself, trying to get people onto a podcast, say, it can be an absolute lottery whether they see the message or not. How did you get in contact with them?
I tried a thing on Twitter at one point where I was going to do like day one of asking for Fabrizio Romano on my podcast, day 2, day 3, and I was going that all the way down the line. And I quickly realized, with a man with, I think it was over 2 million followers at the time, it was very unlikely he was going to see any of my tweets. I went onto his Instagram account then one day, and his email was in the bio. So like, whatever, I'll just send him a message, I send him an email, see what happens. I sent it to him 1, 2, 3, 4 days passed, and nothing came back. And then all of a sudden, I woke up and I had an email from him at like 4 o'clock in the morning, because he never sleeps anyway. And I got that email back, and he was like, Sure. Yeah, look, I'd love to come on and let me know when this, that, we sorted out all the details there. And then, and I still actually remember sitting down to do that video, because the nerves are incredible. Like, he's, for anyone who may not know football or soccer, that kind of transfer side of things, he's the man. He's the main one. And I would, class him as the best and most respected football journalist in the world. And there's just little old me sitting in my bedroom in Limerick, Ireland, getting ready to talk to him. And I just wasn't expecting him to show up. And then, at whatever time we agreed to meet, the clock struck at 3:00, and he popped up there in the bottom corner. And it was a really surreal moment, kind of sitting there and realizing, this is about to happen. Brought him on, had a chat, and just the whole thing was surreal. And I say for a few weeks afterwards, it was kind of difficult to actually fully comprehend that had happened. But since then, I've been lucky to have him back on 3 or 4 times. We've had some fantastic chats, and I got that follow on Twitter as well, which was a nice moment.
Nice little milestone. But like, he is, and like, not to underestimate or undermine who he is. Like, literally, I know, I swear by it, and I know people, the majority of people, that will swear by it as well. You look on Twitter and, Harry Kane's going to United. I don't want to hear that. Probably not going to happen. Definitely not going to happen. Or such and such is going somewhere. Let's say when Ronaldo's going to United. Who said it? Some United fan account. Well, wait till Fabrizio Romano says it. Like it's gospel.
Yeah. It really is. It's when he says the "here we go" as well. I love seeing. Is it like the reply to every one of his tweets? "Here we go?" ? And trying to get him to say that. And look, it's first of all, a huge, massive credit to him for being able to build up that credibility and reliability in a society where, not just in football but in general, the trust and the faith in journalism is rapidly fading. And he's managed to kind of surpass that, I suppose, and become that shining light in the middle of the wreckage, especially in football journalism. And it is crazy to see the reliance on him. And you see other journalists tweet. I know Alistair Gold is the main one for Tottenham anyway, and he might tweet something, and all the replies are tagging Fabrizio Romano. Is this true? Is this real? Is this right? And it's a weird thing. Yeah,
it's something that only came up. Very sure it's an essay topic in one of the modules that. It's about journalism and how is journalism failing in the age of social media. But he is the example of just one way where someone will succeed in it as well. And you'll be looking at there will be other sports journalists, say, that will go down the same path. Now, maybe they might need his approval in a few tweets or something like that, and go on from there. But as we said, he's been huge the last few years, without a doubt. And to have him on, is that the highlight so far for you?
Yeah, it would have to be. Like, I've had some great moments myself. I've had watch-alongs for games at 30, 40, 50,000 views. I've had some videos when you're sitting there on my own. It's gone over 1,000 concurrent viewers and stuff like that. But just to have that, I suppose in some ways it's an acknowledgement of the work that I'm doing, because I know he doesn't go on every single channel that asks him to come on. It's not just he does whatever's asked of him. And I know some channels that I respect and that I would kind of look towards as a like role model or something like that he hasn't gone on. It's just that kind of acknowledgement for me, and that assurance that I am going somewhere and what I'm doing is right. And to have that relationship and that connection within the industry is it's a pretty good one, I won't lie.
It is huge, no question about it. Come here, let's talk more into the football side of things. Premier League this year, etc. Tottenham, what's your thoughts at the moment?
Oh, do we have to? It's a crazy roller coaster. I think it's perhaps going in the way that a lot of fans would have expected with the way the managerial search in the summer went. The transfer window for a while was looking to maybe turn things around, was looking a bit more positive, but the first 3 results of the season really glossed over a lot of problems and a lot of cracks. And I think we could be in for another very painful season. Last year it was the first season in 12, I think, finishing outside the top 6. And I, at the moment, will be surprised if we did get back in there. And there's just so much uncertainty around, as you mentioned already, with Harry Kane, his future, with the likes of Nuno Espirito Santo. He's only just started, but already there's fans who want him sacked. And I'm on the fence at the moment. I'm not entirely convinced either way, but just the uncertainty everywhere. And the board, there's another supporters trust today tried to get some meeting with the board to talk about where the club is going, and the board flat out denied them. And there's just frustration everywhere, and it's kind of hard to tell where things are going. and it's kind of hard to put up with that really as a fan.
Yeah, like a manager of his caliber as well. Like we've seen what he's done with Wolves. You'd think a manager like that could go to another team and just bring them on. Same thing was said. I'm sure David Moyes when he went to United. It's not too different the situations, but when you see a manager like that who has that sort of pedigree, who has the backup, this is what I've done. Is it worth giving them time? And when I say time, I mean you're talking probably another 18 months.
I think as much as football is a results business, and I feel at the end of the day, the decision to keep him or to sack him, whenever that may be, it will come down to results. But in this sort of trial period, when you're trying to figure out where you might be going, the results do matter some bit. But if we're winning games, it's how we're winning them, and if we're losing them, it's how we're losing them. And excluding that City game and maybe to some extent the Villa game as well last week, we're not doing it the right way. Like we beat Watford and we beat Wolves, but then we came out of that period having faced the most shots on goal. I think it was 18 shots we averaged faced against Watford and Wolves, which is, as a club who wants to be in the Champions League and only a couple of years ago was competing for a title with Chelsea at the top of the table, it's a massive fall from grace. And you then go and you lose 3-0 to Crystal Palace, which you could put it down to we'd 6-7 players injured. We got a red card. We'd another player go off injured after 12 minutes. Then you go lose 3-0 to Chelsea. And it's like, well, we had a good first half. We were terrible in the second half. And then we had that absolute calamity at the Emirates. And as bad as the results are, you can't help but feel the way we're losing those games is a little bit worse. And I think that's where Nuno Espirito Santo is failing right now. And that may be down to him. It may not be down to him because, last game of last season, Daniel Levy came out in the match programme and he'd say, we're going to play attacking football. We're going to play free-flowing football, this and that. Then he brings in a director of football who is incredible at his job, but is Italian. And I respect it and I love the Italian style of football because it works so well for them. But it's going to be defensive when you have someone like him coming in, which is the complete opposite of what Daniel Levy has told us. And I think that has been the biggest downfall for Levy in terms of the respect that the fans have for him, where he'll come out and say something. And I'd say, first of all, before sacking Pochettino and then with bringing in Fabio Paratici, where he said, where this club is going, we're on the up, we want free-flowing attacking football. And then all of a sudden there's someone like a Mourinho or someone like a Paratici who he respects so much and really wants at the club that he kind of throws out the window the plan he had and then he publicised and brings in this man that he idolises. And I feel like that's been to his own detriment and probably the detriment of the squad as well now at the moment.
I think United are not too far out of the similar boat as Tottenham as well in terms of managerial situations and stuff like that. But it is that difficult one, and I'll touch on it again. Of is it worth giving time just to see? It's like it's trial and error, because I know it's playing. It's as plain as the nose in your face with United. You've got how many managers in the last how many years, and they're bringing in. They might get one or two of their own players, bring them in, and all of a sudden the next manager comes in. That player's not in their plans. They've got to rejig the whole thing. Now Solskjaer has got a team of players that he's wanted to build up, and all of a sudden they're thinking he should be sacked. So
yeah. I think that one of the worst things that comes from that, when you have this constant cycle of managers, and it almost happens at every club these days, but Nuno right now is working with players from the Pochettino era. Then he's working with Mourinho players who were a very different style of play and different reason they were brought in, and now he's trying to get his own players in, and it's this horrible mix of players from three different styles of football. And Oli for quite a while did have to compete with that as well, and it's just so hard to gel and to really implement any sort of philosophy and get what you want actually happening on the pitch. And it could be the same thing 12 months down the line, whether it's Mauricio Pochettino who comes back or whoever the next manager is, they'll just be in the exact same situation.
Absolutely. Like, even let's say with Solskjaer, when he came in first, he was playing with players. Well, let's look at Fellaini, a player that Moyes brought in. You're talking not just the era before that and one before that, but you're talking a few behind. Like, kind of, you're thinking surely give at least one of the managers a bit of time to turn around and do something well. And Solskjaer gets a few wins in one season, and he brings in a few players like Ronaldo, Varane, Sancho, and everything's going great. And all of a sudden, one or two losses and a few draws, and it's just not good enough. Like,
I think with Ali, he doesn't help himself at times, and I'm sure every United fan would agree with that McFred duo in the middle of the park.
Yeah.
But it's it is a really tough situation he's in, and I think for whatever reason he seems to do really well when he's under pressure, and he kind of comes out of it. And I know you're running fixtures at the moment. You got like all the big six in the next couple of games. You have a few tough Champions League games as well, and he'll probably come out of those with a few wins, and everything will be looking fantastic. But it's then those games against West Ham and against Aston Villa, where he kind of struggles. And when that does happen, it comes down to, well, he wasn't experienced before he came to United, and he's only a PE teacher. And I do think he deserves a lot more credit than he's been given in that regard. But at the same time, I don't think he's done enough to prove that he is the man to go on and win trophies for United when he's lost the 5 semi-finals and a final. I think he may be coming to the end of his time there.
It's true. Tell me, plans for the future for yourself, the Tottenham blog. Is the plan just to keep going with that? As you said, how many subscribers now on YouTube is it?
I think it's about 11.9 thousand at the moment, so we're closing in on the 12k. I don't think I'm ever going to pack it in or give it up, but I feel at the moment I just need to keep it maybe one video a week, and then kind of slowly going into the festive period. It's going to be a lot busier, but it's the transfer window. The second you're watching Deadline Day in Sky Sports News, the second that window closes, I'm just waiting for the next one to open. It really is my favorite part of the year, and I think going forward, that would probably need to be the main bulk of my channel. Maybe even not make it a seasonal channel, but like really zone in on things when that comes around. But I've no plans of stopping, and I'm hoping it continues to grow at the rate it has.
Absolutely, and just kind of on the topic of that as well. I know we were saying how you might have to just spontaneously put up a video all of a shot. In terms of planning them as well, like I know you do a lot of them where it's just yourself. So do you try and kind of maybe once every couple of weeks bring someone else in and have a chat with them, or is it just around games that you might do that?
Well, it's mainly with games. With the games, I'll always try and get an opposition fan on, whether it's for a preview or a review, just to kind of get the feeling in the other camp. But the majority of the time, it will be mainly me with other people. But I feel over this transfer window, especially because a lot of them were last minute. I can't just text them and say, I'm streaming now, come on and join me. So I feel a lot of the time I was kind of just thrown into the deep end where I had to do stuff on my own. But I do enjoy doing videos on my own as well, whether they're analyses of players who might be buying, or I did one last year that actually went out really well, whereas kind of tactically looking at how Spurs won certain couple of games. And I think what people watching may not realize is the recording that video is 5% of the work. The research and the planning and the editing and getting everything ready outside of that it's a massive endeavor, which I do enjoy at times as well. But I prefer being on with other people, but I feel like at times it's better to kind of do that stuff on my own.
Exactly. Well, Matt, lookers, thanks a million for joining me today, and I wish you the very best of luck with the Tottenham blog and with stats as well and everything in the future.
Thank you very much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.